evening and a warm welcome to State of Business on Art Television. I'm Hishain Ali and let's have a look at the headlines first. China assures to assist Sri Lanka in its developmental projects. Government is more careful with foreign agreements and always prioritizes the national interest, says State Minister Ajit Niwad Cabral. News in detail. The visiting high-level delegation led by former Chinese Foreign Minister and the current Communist Party Political Bureau member Yang Jiechi assures that China will continue to assist Sri Lanka's developmental efforts. Thus, a 7-member delegation led by Yang Jiechi called on President Gotabaya Rajapaksa at the Presidential Secretariat this morning. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa welcomed the current state of Sino-Sri Lankan relations and described China as a long-standing friend who has supported Sri Lanka throughout. Moreover, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa said that although many geopolitical experts claim the projects such as Hambantota Port, Port City Project, Southern Expressway place Sri Lanka in China's debt trap, the projects in fact attribute to the upliftment of the living standards of the people. Communist Party Politburo member Yang Jiechi added that China is prepared to assist in realizing the development projects mentioned in the President's National Policy Framework, Vistas of Prosperity and Splendor, through action and not by words alone. He said plans are afoot to recommence negotiation on the China-Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement and to expedite the proposed Hambantota Industrial Zone project. President Rajapaksa pointed out that Sri Lanka's trade deficit with China is very high and requested the leader of the delegation to increase the quantity of goods purchased from Sri Lanka to reduce it. Moreover, the high-level Chinese delegation led by Yang Jiechi met with Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa at Temple Trees today. Ministers Dinesh Gunawardena, Namal Rajapaksa, Wimal Weerawansa, Bandulu Gunawardena, Johnston Fernando, Professor G.L. Pires were present on the occasion. Parliamentarian of the main opposition Samagijana Balawegyo and State Minister for Economic Reforms and Public Distribution of the Good Governance Regime, Dr. Harsha De Silva stresses that the country should have a clear and unified economic model despite the regime shifts of the country. Moreover, speaking at the Parliament yesterday, he further lamented that the pledges to develop the country's economy by successive governments have regrettably become elusive.
With each election victory, the economic model should not change. We should have a clear and unified vision of what we want our country to achieve in terms of socio-economic development. Development is essentially the structural transformation of the economy, away from rural, agrarian, low-skill, low-paid, to more urban, technology-based, high-skill, high-paid economy. This means ensuring that local companies, be it state-owned or private-owned, have the capacity and institutional culture to move up from producing simple products and services towards increasingly complex products and services. But confusing signals about repeating past economic experiments that failed in the 1970s when the world was, in any case, a different place, makes one wonder whether we want to move back to an agrarian-based economy with import restrictions and adopting a sort of a hermit kingdom model. In closing, I would urge the government to move away from falsification and conspiracy theories regarding international agreements, whether it is with the IMF in these difficult times, or with the proposed ECTA with India, or the FTA with China, or the AXA, or the MCC with the US. Please let us debate facts and benefits that will ultimately help Sri Lanka achieve that elusive development of our country.
Finance and Capital Markets and Public Enterprise Reform State Minister Ajit Niwad Cabral, replying to former State Minister Dr. Harsha De Silva, said that government must always enter into foreign agreements prioritizing the national interest and not looking at a point from the angle of any other parties. The State Minister also stressed that leaving out from an agreement is not easy and therefore foreign agreements must be studied very carefully before entering into those.
The first and foremost principle is that it must be in the national interest. That is in the interest of Sri Lanka, not anybody else. The ceasefire agreement that was entered into previously, the IMF agreements that were entered into by the government of the UNP, the Sri Lanka-Singapore agreement, the GSP Plus agreement where it was mentioned that certain undertakings would be given. Now, these are all not in the national interest. So I think it's important for us to recognize that national interest should be foremost. The second is that it must be favorable to the country. I saw once Honorable Ranil Wickremesinghe, the then Prime Minister, saying that people in Singapore were welcoming the Singapore-Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement. Actually, it's not the people in Singapore who should welcome it as far as we are concerned. Our trade, our industrialists, our entrepreneurs must welcome that. And that's important for us to understand. The third point is, Honourable Chairman, to remember it's easy to enter into agreements. I know there is a certain procedure, no doubt, but it's easy to enter into agreement, but it's not very easy to get out of agreements. So that is why, before we enter, we have to be very cautious. We have to study it very carefully to see that there is sufficient study and concern being taken in order to enter into those agreements. And I want to thank my friend, Honourable Harsha De Silva, for bringing up this adjournment debate, which I hope will stimulate further discussion for the future. Thank you very much.
Before the Honourable Minister, we wish to know from you if you are going to go ahead with these agreements that are now halfway. For instance, MCC, AXA, ECA, China Free Trade Agreement, and so on. I would appreciate in the last minute if you can say yes or no per agreement. Thank you.
Well, member, you know it as much as I do, that these are not yes or no answers. These are matters that should be dealt with in a way that we have the interests of the Sri Lankan our country.
Government.
So I want to just mention that that's the way it has to be done. Thank you very much.
Stay tuned for more news right after this commercial break. Welcome back after the break. The central bank highlights that even though the overall literacy rate in Sri Lanka is very high, it lacks the financial and technological literacy which fast-track the use of digital payments. Thus, Senior Assistant Director and Assistant Director of Payments and Settlements Department of CBSL, Rishika Kumaraswamy and Pumi Dias made these observations joining the Art Television's BIS Roundup Special Edition, which is the CBSL's first television interview on the Lanka QR code after its launching on last Monday.
In Sri Lanka, literacy as a whole is very high, but financial literacy and technology literacy is a little bit lower than we would like. So those two things are what we need to make digital payments. So what we've done with Lanka QR is brought everything to a common standard.
Can we do a small practical demonstration?
Okay, so I have an app which is Lanka QR compliant. I'm just going to go in there, enter my PIN, and then I come into the application. So this is what it looks like. Now, when I need to make a payment, I just go to QR Pay. The minimum amount that we can pay with Lanka QR is 10 rupees. There is no maximum amount, so I'll just enter the minimum, 10 rupees. And then I'll just click on this QR code. So now it's looking for a QR to scan. It just found it, scanned it, that's done. And I press confirm. And the payment is made, and I get a notification saying that the payment has gone through.
Lanka QR, we wanted the whole country to adopt this. Lanka QR is our national standard.
An app named as Disability designed to support children with disabilities and their families by connecting them to expert guidance was launched by the MJF Charitable Foundation by Dilma T and Millennium IT with partners Microsoft, Sarwa and World Vision Lanka last Tuesday. Launched on October 6th, World Cerebral Palsy Day, the app is the first of its kind globally and it is available in Sinhala, Tamil and English and offers an invaluable teletherapy services for people with cerebral palsy or the condition known as CP. The app includes guided disability and development screening, access to pediatricians, early identification and intervention, therapeutic, educational and rehabilitation assistance, and allows caregivers to monitor progress with guidance from the MJF Foundation's multidisciplinary team. The Disability Project focuses on possibilities and in emphasizing the ability of people who are considered disabled seeks to grow awareness of the estimated 40,000 people with cerebral palsy in Sri Lanka, 17 million around the world, and others with Down syndrome or other developmental disorders.
40,000 children in Sri Lanka, 17 million around the world, have this condition known as cerebral palsy. If society decides that they are disabled, they will be, but actually they are not. And that is the point of today. If we are able to collaborate as individuals, as businesses, as experts, and if we are able to do something to help these young people and their caregivers to benefit from knowledge, therapies, from different forms of diagnosis, different access to different expertise, then we can deliver change. One of the objectives that we have with this program is to share knowledge of people with different ability so that we can encourage each of us, our children, families, friends, to see them for what they really are, to understand, accept, respect, and then include them. The second thing that I want to share with you is to show you the power of collaboration. During COVID, we found that without cooperation, we were nothing.
Investment institution First Capital Holdings states that the trading and stock market saw a mixed reaction during this week with the eruption of a third wave of COVID-19 cases and thereby the panic selling in the market. Nevertheless, the First Capital Holdings added that the buying sentiment was gradually seen in the market with the immediate containment measures taken by the government.
This week we saw some mixed reactions in the market. So with the possible third wave of COVID-19 escalating during the start of the week, we saw a significant amount of selling pressure in the market. Lots of panic selling that took place in the first 2 days, bringing down the index by over 500 points. We saw the market closing above 6,000 last week. However, after the first 2 days of negativity, the market fell by around over 500 points to around 5,534 is where the market bottomed out. That is after the first 2 days. However, on the following day, that is Wednesday, the market fell even further intraday below 5,400 as well before it started recovering again. So from that point onwards, we saw a buying interest coming back into the market with investors getting used to the new normal of where the government also had taken a number of actions to control the COVID-19 spread. On that confidence and also with the investors getting used to the situation, we saw a recovery in the index and buying back coming into the market.
Bringing the forecast for the coming week, First Capital Holdings highlights that with government being interested on the infrastructure projects, the construction sector will be very attractive for the retail communities in the coming week.
Looking at the upcoming week, the situation will be highly dependent on how the government and the health authorities manage the COVID-19 situation, the possible third wave that is there in the country, how the authorities manage it. So we feel that if the current trend of control and identifying possible COVID-19 suspects go on in the current manner, we feel that positivity in the market also can continue during the next week as well. Retail and high net worth again is likely to be very high, and with possibly the government continuously talking about more infrastructure projects, we feel that the construction sector might be very attractive for our retail community. So with that, we feel that there will be higher buying interest into those sector shares, and also blue chips also will be very attractive.
Stay tuned for stock updates. Welcome back after the break. The trading at Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a positive note today. The All-Share Price Index gained 74.18 points to close at 5,798.72, and the S&P SL 20 gained 31.35 points to close at 2,348.50. The turnover was 3 billion rupees and over 214 million shares were traded. Up next are forex rates. And that's all news for today. See you on Sunday with Best Roundup Special Edition interview at 7 p.m. Until then, take care and good night.